Well, all right, it's Yahsinni Kusabe, and today I am going to read to you an article called Human, the Science of Man, and it's from the Pallades Connection, Volume 2, and it's an online PDF. And on page 19, I'm going to start with reincarnation. Oh, the website is called 4winds10.com. And it's secret hitting shit. So, you're not going to just luck up on this kind of stuff. You have to dig for it. And I did. So I'm going to share everything that I see in the rabbit hole with YouTube. So let's go. Reincarnation. Reincarnation is incredibly difficult to explain to people of this age because the concepts of this age and the unfolding of man are still too primitive for anyone to comprehend. Many facts of nature which are beyond their or your limited range of sensing. That extremely limited range of sensing of this early stage of man's unfolding is his great handicap to comprehension of this principle. When people say casually to us, "Do you believe in reincarnation? Please tell me about it," we shudder at the task, for it is impossible to explain reincarnation to anybody whose concepts of bodies and life and death of bodies are what people of the present age think they are. Okay? So many of the previous lessons were written to build new concepts of nature's working, which would make this most obvious fact of nature understandable. In these lessons, we made it clear that all bodies, whether thought bodies or material bodies, such as sounds, animals, suns, or galaxies, are but light waves. Okay? All previous lessons were devoted to the purpose of building new concepts, such as the duality of bodies, as a basis for a better understanding of the as yet known facts of reincarnation. These new concepts of the polarization of bodies into concentrated and decentrated, visible and invisible mate pairs, which interchange their polarity forever in repetitive cycles, are the first steps in peering behind the scenes of God's workshop, where the making of bodies take place. Okay? So you are beginning to know how God builds visible bodies by compressing long waves of low potential into short, high ones, and then reverses that process so that visible ones again become invisible. Bear with me. Science has practiced that method of compressing waves, but does not know that it has been practicing it. Science merely says, matter seemingly emerges from space and is then swallowed up by space, but it may be that man will never be able to solve this great mystery of the creative process of matter. We will slowly build up a complete explanation of this process of nature. Okay? So we're going to start with illusion of disappearance and reappearance. So consider this thought. Place a glass of water on your garden wall some sunny morning. When you go to see it in the afternoon, that body of water is not there. You do not say that the water is dead. You say it has disappeared. And you know why it has disappeared and where it is. You know that it has but changed its potential from its dense visible condition to its expanded invisible condition. That visible condition, that body of water, which occupied 6 cubic inches, has evaporated into a much larger body of invisible vapors, which now occupy a space of 6,000 cubic inches. You know that even though that body of water has disappeared, it does not cease to exist. You know that it still has a body, not the same kind of body, not one which you could drink or wash your hands in, but still it has a body. It might even become visible as a cloud and disappear again. You might also breathe in part of it mixed in the air that you use. You don't think of it, however, as having ceased to be, for you know it will come again. And when cold air contracts it to its dense concentrated polar condition. So let me read that again. You don't think of it, however, as having ceased to be, for you know it will come again when cold air contracts to its dense concentrated polar condition. When rain fills that empty cup, you can say that it has repeated its condition as water. Then when it again becomes vapor, you can again say that it has repeated its condition as vapor. That is what polarization and depolarization, or concentration and decentration, means. If you totally disagree the thought of repetition of its two opposite conditions and substitute the thought of the eternal continuity of that body of water which forever appears within the range of your vision, then disappears beyond that range for an interval before it again reappears, you would have taken the first simple step toward a comprehension of the sequential interchange of visible bodies with their invisible counterparts. That realization is what we must now impress upon you until you fully realize that each interval of time between the disappearance and reappearance of any body is not a discontinuance of the body. It is merely a blackout of your senses. When things disappear from your vision or your hearing, they have not ceased to be. They are not dead. And when they reappear within your vision or hearing, they are not reborn to life. They have but again come within your range of vision and hearing. Together with the above realization, you must fix in your consciousness that the soul of that disappeared body still is. And in that soul is the same desire that created the disappeared body. That desire of the soul to unfold the form of an idea would cause it to reappear. Again, to unfold forever and ever as a continuity which is forever changing but never ceases. Okay? So, changing sound bodies. We must exemplify this thought to make it a part of knowing. Consider, therefore, a body of sound that you create by talking. When the sound ceases, it is not dead. You no longer hear it, but if there is a cliffside up the valley and you have talked loudly enough, your voice will again be heard as it condenses into small waves by impacting against the cliff. It is the same voice and the same sound continued out into its spatial counterpart. It is still living. It is a continuity of itself. It is the same sound extended from the point of desire where its body form was created. You call it an echo. It is just as appropriate to call it a mirror, for sound waves are light, which reflect light. Okay? The illusion of repetition. Consider this same sound being again brought into appearance 3,000 miles away by the condenser of your radio, which shortens the lengthened waves to the dimensions created by you when you spoke them. Again, we say they are not dead when they disappeared 3,000 miles away from their birth. They but disappeared from the range within which your senses are able to perceive them. No matter where upon this earth you set your condenser to restore the dimensions of those sound bodies to their original wavelengths and frequencies, you will hear those sounds again in their original pattern and identity. So let us say that the words were spoken by, say, Bush or Reagan at their point of desire. Then Bush or Reagan's identity was reincarnated or reborn or repeated wherever they newly appeared. It was the same voice pattern, same characteristics in every respect wherever recondensed into reappearance. Continuity. These facts are true to natural law, and you are not correct when you use the terms death, birth, disappearance, repetition, reappearance, or reincarnation. How can you be correct in the use of such terms when you know there is a continuity of such bodies and that nothing has changed in them but their dimensions and their polarity? Likewise, if their recognized identity and pattern were that of Churchill who spoke them or Caruso who sang them, why then should you question whether or not you lose your individuality when the body, which you call John Doe, refolds into its seed, as all bodies do, whether mineral, vegetable, or animal, as you shall be shown a bit later. The seed of mineral life is the zero element known as the inert gases. Okay? Get your science book out. All bodies are the result of desire of mind to create bodies. Desire of mind is eternal. Therefore, all bodies are eternal in their continuity. We should not even say that they are not eternally repetitive, for repetition is suggestive of discontinuity intervals between each repetition. When night comes, you no longer see the distant mountain. Your range of vision does not permit you to see through the dark. In the morning, the mountain reappears within your range of vision, but you don't think of it as another mountain reborn, or do you think of it as a repetition? You think of it as a continuity, for the mountain has never ceased to be. In fact, if there is an earthquake in the night which changes the mountain, it is not a different thing. You must see that the same is true of the flower which disappears into its inert gas seed. It's a continuity, however, for it again unfolds from its seed to relive. How can you say that it has stopped living? You can only say it has stopped manifesting life by resting. All dynamic bodies manifest life through action, but who can say that you, or even me, whom you cannot visualize, are not manifesting life while resting, or simply because you cannot see me? If you desire to know what happens to your bodies after death, and you wish to thoroughly understand the illusion of reincarnation, you must first thoroughly understand what we mean by the term reversal of potential. You must also know what is meant by the term cycles. Okay? Here's an explanation. Reversal of potential and cycles. So postulate 1. All bodies are continuous. They never cease. They merely reverse their potential twice in every cycle. Okay? Of their eternal journey within and beyond the range of your sensing by compressing into visibility and then expanding into their invisible seed recordings. Postulate number 2. All all bodies are expressed in cycle. A cycle is a continuous two-way spiral journey from the expanded condition of a body to its opposite, compressed condition, and back again to its expanded condition. So, a most familiar example of a cycle is day and night. Each is the opposite half of the other, such as one's breathing. Okay? You'll understand these postulates better by exemplifying them. The disappearance of a glass of water into vapor and its return is one kind of an example, which you'll find difficulty in harmonizing with reincarnation. So let us take an entirely different type of example, which you should more readily associate with reincarnation, but they are the same in principle. So instead of a glass of water, let us substitute a tree or an oak. It does not evaporate in order to disappear. It decays by heat. And decay is just another word of exactly the same meaning, but with a different connotation. Both demonstrate nature's manner of disappearing by expanding. The element of time also makes it difficult to see both effects as one. The water returns quickly. It may rain the next moment. But the oak tree, which has disappeared, will not stand there again as the tree you saw for 50 years. Now comes the question. Where's the water after it disappeared, and where's the oak? This is equivalent to the old, seemingly unanswerable question. Where do I go when I die? Further, as the seed or acorn is again planted and grows, it does not grow into a rose bush, nor a frog or a dog or a rock, and neither will you, for your seed is of human, and you will be reborn in the same format in whatever level or of dimensional growth is suitable. If the acorn is transported to Mars and has facilities for growth, it will produce the oak of itself with the same genetic DNA as it was in its original tree. So let's consider this. The glass of water rose up into the heavens as vapor. So what do we mean by the word heavens in this respect? We mean the low potential gases into which all high potential bodies disappear. The glass of water did not go all the way to absolute zero, for it was not fully dead. It had lowered its potential and sought a balancing position of lower potential in the direction of zero potential, which we have it's diagrammed later in the portion, but I don't know that I'm going to be showing any diagrams. However, now, what about the oak? Wherein lies the difference? The oak has expanded completely into its own identity record in the zero universe, which is its soul seed. Can't you see that the oak refolded in its zero record to rest from the long years of action of bodybuilding? And can you not see that the reappearance as rebirth is but the re-emergence of the same oak? Okay, so if you plant an acorn from the oak which died in your garden, you will again see it there alive. In your meditation, ask yourself, if death is what you thought it was, did the oak die? Did it go anywhere after it died? Do you go anywhere when you die each night to rest, or at the end of a life cycle to rest? Do you believe that the oak ever discontinued? How could you have seen it come back? Moreover, if it had strange characteristics, so shall the new growth from its acorn. You know, it was the same oak that you planted. It was the folded up seed of it in your garden. Okay? You planted it yourself. In the same sense, how do you know that the child playing in your neighbor's garden is not your own grandmother or even your own daughter? When you know more about the oneness of man, you will more clearly comprehend the possibility of such a happening. Yeah. So here's more considerations. Daylight is light compressed. Can you logically say that invisible night light is dead? Can you truthfully say that only those things which respond to your senses are living, and those others which are beyond your senses are dead? Why then do you even have to ask yourselves if you believe in reincarnation or not? A human being is one unit of an imperishable external idea. His body manifests that idea. When his body disappears, it passes beyond his sensing, but his identity is idea, because it's continuous, as eternity is continuous. So I can take you one step further and tell you that the form is just as visible to us in this dimension as it was to you in yours. It is never changed in the vision or idea of God, its source. In August, you can pick apples from a certain tree. In October, you can. But when August again comes, you can again pick apples from that particular early fruiting tree. Nature refolds everything which has unfolded from it back into its seed. But nature again unfolds it forever and ever on planet after planet throughout eternity. Where then is that thing we call death and rebirth? Are they not just 2 points in the same journey? You think of life as beginning at birth and ending in death. You've not even learned to think of it as a continuity, such as the cycle of a piston stroke in an expansion-contraction engine, yet one is as continuous as the other. At middle life, your generative power reverses. You then begin to die just as you began to live 40 years ago. At that interval point, your visible bodies begin to manifest their invisible halves. They are still visible for another 30 or 40 years before they pass beyond your range of visibility at that point, which you call death. Likewise, they are still workable as mechanical bodies for many years after the power to pump your visible bodies into their dense forms weakens to the point where you have to give back to earth and space all that you have borrowed from it. Right? So another big question is, what happens if one is not allowed to live his life through such as dying in childhood or being killed in war? If such a one has deprived of the advantages which those who have completed their life cycles, nature balances all of her divided cycles. In the visible body, if the visible body disappears at 20 years of age, it only means that the whole life cycle is shortened. The invisible half of the body shortens its rest period to balance the shortening of the work period. The youth who was killed reincarnates sooner than he otherwise would. So remember always that the time element in every cycle of energy, of every energy throughout all creation, is equally divided between its opposed halves. The two reversal points are equal. Action and reaction of compressing and expanding halves of bodies are equal. Your in-breathing period is equal to your out-breathing period. If a man generates his concentrated body toward life for 10, 20, 30, or 50 years to manifest God by work, he must decentrate the other half of his body for an equal period to manifest God through rest. It's as simple as that, and that is law. The compression period of every cycle must be followed by an equal expansion period. Period. There is no exception to this law, so that any shortening of any life cycle by destruction of one half of its balanced in the other half, or it is balanced in the other half. So the next couple of subjects will make this principle more clear to you as I proceed to further unfolding of the continuity of the opposite expressions of life, which you wrongly call life and death. These are not two, they are one. Okay?